Welcome. My name is Fred Sandoval. I'm the Executive Director for the National Latino Behavioral Health Association, NALBA for short. Thank you for joining us today for our Plática called Tenemos Voz, which means we have a voice, and it's on Latino peer recovery. With me today is our esteemed co-host, Melissa Montaño, who is the Program Manager of the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement for the state of New Mexico in the Behavioral Health Services Division. She'll be introducing herself in just a little bit, and all of you know her, so she's kind of a celebrity. So I would want you to know that we're just so excited to have her here to co-host today's very special Plática, because today we have an extended version of the Plática. So today, be ready for one of the most spectacular Pláticas we have ever had the opportunity to present. NALBA is a nonprofit agency who's dedicated to the well-being of Latinos, both individuals and families, and of course our communities in New Mexico and throughout the United States and the territories. Our mission is to address the disparities and the barriers that affect the behavioral health of Latinos. Today we're excited to present our Plática, and as I said, it's called Tenemos Voz. So the people today are speaking out with their voice, and the voice and the message they bring today is very powerful. So we're excited that they get to speak out, but so do you as the live Facebook audience, because we're going to be looking forward to your comments, your chats, and your questions inside the live Facebook Plática. With that having been said, Plática is the Spanish word for conversation, and that's what we do. Both Melissa and I will have a conversation with our presenters, who we're going to introduce in just a little bit. But today we want to highlight their experiences. We want to be able to talk about their journeys, what they have learned, what they've experienced, and where they are today, making a big difference for Latinos in their own lives, their families, their communities, and the nation and across the globe. This Plática is unlike no other, so I want you to be ready with your questions, your comments, comentarios, right? And more importantly, get engaged with us today, because we want to be proud of the recovery that they represent and the recovery that's possible for many others to come. Now, I would like to thank the New Mexico Human Services Department, and particularly the Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement, for making this series of Pláticas available throughout New Mexico and the Southwest and the nation. And don't be surprised if we have folks from outside of the country listening in as well. Each month, we have this Plática, and we host speakers, like the guest speakers we're about to introduce in a second, so that they can share their stories, their insights. We'll talk about resources available. You'll get to see that in the chat. More importantly, it's about ensuring that the movement of recovery gets bigger and stronger. And more than that, today you're going to hear some leadership that is unlike anything else that most people are accustomed to around Latinos in recovery. These are the models that we want to ensure people learn about because of their power, their influence, and their incredible work. So let's start. Let's make sure Melissa gets to introduce herself first, and then she's kind enough to introduce our speakers. And once she does that, we're going to go ahead and get started, and then I'll kind of tell you what to expect over the next 90 minutes. So Melissa, bienvenidos. Good to see you. And it looks like you're maybe up in Tierra Maria or beautiful Chama or somewhere, because what a great backdrop.
It is an awesome background from either, I don't know, one of my friends sent me that, and it is Chama or Tierra Maria. That's for sure. But you know, Fred, I'm not going to take long, family. And hello out there, Facebook world and CPSWs, CHWs, professionals, you know, peer professionals. I'm so excited to be here today. We hadn't done this in a minute. This is also very inspiring to me, because I get inspired by recovery, and the four folks you're going to hear from today are super amazing, and they've been my inspiration. I look up to Ralph, Mr. Santiago. It's an honor for you, for me to be in this talk with you. And Fernando, when I got to meet him, man, he was cooking in Chama, cooking it all up in Chama land. And I'll just say a few words about me, but I'm not a celebrity, Fred. Tú sabes. I'm a woman in long-term recovery. My name is Melissa Montaño. I am from up north. My family lives in Ensenada, New Mexico, and that's where I was born and raised. Born in Denver, raised there. I'm a CPSW. I also get to be the OPRE program manager, and that stands for Office of Peer Recovery and Engagement. And we train, we have an amazing curriculum that we share with New Mexico and the folks that are in recovery and wanna do the same work that we're gonna hear from today. Our familia, mis hermanos and mi hermana está aquí hoy. We're here, and so I'm gonna, since there's 4 of us today, and like Fred said, we haven't done 4 people in a long time. So I'm gonna start with Mr. Martinez, since he's my neighbor, my vecino from Española, my mom's and my dad's. He is a co-founder and chair of the Española Pathway Shelter. You know, for 11 years, Mr. Martinez was addicted to cocaine and heroin. It led to him losing his family, his home, his identity as an individual. During that time, he was unhoused. He was an unhoused individual, like our relations, you know, that are out there right now, you know, and they see him and he's an inspiration. He was living under bridges and in tents, you know, in remote areas and various abandoned buildings. And since 2012, Ralph has been clean and sober. Wow. He has committed to being a positive influence in the community, that's for sure. And he is currently the co-founder and chair of, you know, Española Pathway Shelter, and also the president of the Española Community Matanza. That's a lot, man. That is so awesome, Ralph.
Thank you, Melissa. I just want to make a really quick correction. I am the co-founder of the Española Pathway Shelter, but I am not the chair of the board of directors. I actually haven't sat on the board of directors for a little over 2 years, and so I think a lot of people have a misconception with that. I mean, they place me with the shelter because I am the co-founder, but we have a director. We have a board of directors. We have a director who overlooks the staff, and I do a lot of things behind the curtains. You know, I'm really well connected, really invested with the shelter. But about a little over 2 years ago, I took a step back. I was the chair of Española Pathway Shelter for a little over a year, and then I took a step back. It's already been a little over 2 years, and so I just wanted to make that correction.
That's awesome. Thank you for that, and we'll be updating your bio so the world knows, you know. I'm excited to introduce you to the next guest and talk a little bit about him, man. Oh my God, Mr. Ruiz, man. Fernando is the chef, and you can tell me, Fernando, if anything in your bio has changed. I should have memorized it by now, right?
The only thing that probably has changed is that I'm opening up my restaurant in July. That's probably about it. So
we're excited to hear about that. But Mr. Ruiz is chef and founder of the Entrepreneurial Institute of Northern New Mexico. He was 13. At the age of 13, through his early 20s, Fernando was involved with a gang, trafficking weapons and drugs. He had spent several birthdays incarcerated for his offenses. It was during this incarceration that he earned his GED. He was involved, he earned his GED while he was incarcerated. Sorry, this is touching to me. He had spent his birthdays incarcerated for his offenses, and it was during this time that he educated himself on a lot of things, and upon release attended a culinary school. As a chef, Mr. Ruiz holds this distinction of appearing and winning. This is the best part, winning the Network Sky grocery games. Chopped and he beat Bobby Flay, where he took up honors over Bobby Flay with his chiles and nogada dish. Can't wait to hear more about that. Amazing. And then now, of course, I'm getting the chills because Mr. Jimmy Santiago was up. Fred, I always say, no, I'm not gonna, nothing's coming out, but it's gonna. He's a poet and author, and Mr. Baca was born in Santa Fe County, abandoned by his parents at the age of 2. He was eventually placed in an orphanage. At 13, he ran away to live on the streets, and by the age of 21, was convicted and incarcerated on drug possession charges. While serving a 5-year sentence in a maximum security prison, he learned to read and write. He learned to read and began to turn his life around, eventually emerging as a prolific artist of the spoken written word. You know, and I'm living like another awakening right now, because I was able to see this person in Mr. Santiago in Taos while I was in super early recovery with others that were trying so hard to get it right, you know, from a treatment center. I immediately ran up to him and bought his book and asked him to please sign it, and I've been following him since. But I also took a picture, and I'm gonna find it and dig it up, and I think I sent it to Fred to share with you, sir. So this is very cool today, Anna. You're next, and one of our most amazing ethics trainer that OPRI has. So I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Ana Chavez-Mancillas, and I'll also be getting to meet her and hug her at the San Antonio NALBA conference. She's the director of NALBA, Bob Martinez Center of Innovation in California. Before she joined NALBA, Ana worked for over 20 years providing bilingual and bicultural mental health and substance abuse services to children and families. She has 24 plus years in recovery, mentor, man, and strives to help others not only with substance use issues, but also other mental health. So if I missed anything from there, please mention it when you all get to talk, because I'm super excited, Mr. Fred. Was that awesome or what?
Oh man, I tell you what, what a great way to start things off. Alicia, como siempre, you honor us by your presence and your recovery and everything that you do for all peers in the state and the region and in the country. And you'll be presenting at a national conference this summer in San Antonio. So you're going to be in a high platform where you deserve to be, right? Chicanas, Latinas that are leading the efforts need to be recognized, and we're proud to have you there, and we're looking forward to your presentation in San Antonio. But let's get started, porque los compadres están preparados, and my comadrecita, they are ready, because we have some great questions for them. And the way we do this, and this is what the audience can expect, Melisha and I have several questions that we're going to ask our presenters today, and she and I will take turns in these questions. And then we want you, the live Facebook audience, to send your comments and questions. And I can see we already have some folks that are already sending in their comments. And that means we're going to share those to the presenters so that they can see what the live Facebook audience is saying and asking about and wanting to share. But we're going to get started. So Jimmy, you're up on base. And I want you to know that I was at the University of New Mexico during the Chicano movement. So I'm going to date myself a little bit here. So in 1974, we were reading the works of many of the literary Chicano champions of the time. And your work was in its emergence. It was in that thrust, that period of time that started to influence plebe like myself, right? Because we wanted to be cognizant about the Chicano experience, what was happening to us, and what it is that we wanted to know more about. And you have gone from that trajectory to places that have yet to even be found in your journey. And I want to recognize you as an international Chicano poet, and we all take great pride in being Chicanos. And more importantly, is your career is unlike any other. And because of that, you have a connection to New Mexico, no doubt. But in addition to that, your whole life experience, your story, the experiences that you've had have shaped who you are today in ways that are very profound, very influential. Today, you get to say some part of that story just to get us started. And as our comadrecita had said, you're a testament to the written and the oral words, right? And it tells us there is so much more in store for all of us in this country by you, my friend. So, compadre, we'd just like to give you an opportunity to say more a little bit about yourself so that we can be sure that what you share today will continue to be shared into the future. You eres maestro and a maestro at the same time. So we want to just thank you for being here with us. We are very honored as the National Latino Behavioral Health Association to have you present in our live Facebook Platica. So with that, let me turn it over for you to make some introductory remarks, say a little bit more about yourself, and then I'll turn it over to Melisha, and then she'll help continue with the additional questions we have for the other presenters. So, Jimmy, bienvenidos.
Thank you, Fred. And Melisha, that was beautiful. You're gonna become you may have a parallel career as a motivational speaker. That was really good, Melisha. Congratulations. And Fred, thanks for the introduction. And Anna, 24 years. Wow. To me, that puts you right up there next to Van Gogh and Michelangelo. I mean, that's heavy duty, especially for a Chicano like that, man. For us, we were expected, to not be able to have the wherewithal for our own healing. And 24 years ago, I don't think there was a whole lot. There was a whole lot of support groups around. So I must have imagined that you did a lot of work on yourself. And that just is a tribute to your own strength. And Melisha, the same goes for you. How many Chicanas who were in recovery were buying books, just the simple act of buying a book. That's an incredible statement because we were taught that books were the enemy. We were taught that you can go to a dealer's house and you can go to an arms dealer, you can buy whatever, but you never go into a bookstore because it carries so much shame for us. And you stood up against that myth, and it just goes to show what an amazing woman you are. So thank you for being you, Melisha. I've had to work on myself a lot, and it's hard to isolate my stages of growth. But in the current state that I'm in and the work that I'm doing now, I'm finishing up a trilogy that I've worked on for 8 years, and I'm finishing up Blood In, Blood Out 2, and the people that I meet on this road, they're sort of caught up in the mystery of who we are as Chicanos. From Hollywood to the New York publishers, I've found myself educating them about who we are. And I simply tell them, I don't tell them this, but now that I'm just thinking about it and talking, I can't think of more happier people than us. I mean, if I show up with some tamales, you'd think that I just gave a Pope's blessing to la plebe. They all happy, and órale, vamos a tirar una chamba aquí, vamos a tener un barbacoa, ¿qué huele? And I'm like, you can offer them just a cigarette. And they're like, órale, carnal. And right away, they're the happiest you ever met. And I love that about my gente. And also, if you were to compare that, the sad thing is that there's no obstacle to our, there's no measurement to our sorrow. Because we know how good we are. We know how good we are. And when something tragic happens to us, which happens a lot these days with guns and gangs and drugs and booze, and mental illness has become a horrible plague, affecting almost every Chicano family I know. because our kids are they're trying to find their identity in this mayhem. They're trying to find their identity in this onslaught of misinformation where people don't read. They scan through and they sort of move through the news of the day until something grabs their attention that they're familiar with or interested in with, but it doesn't compare to reading. I don't even know what that name, we have to come up with a name for that. It does something, but it also does something to our psyche. So when we try to express the goodness in us, we're much better at expressing our sorrow in our corridos, in our tears, in our fights, in our conflicts, in our drug addiction, in our alcoholism. We can express our sorrow in all of those ways, but we've yet to find a way to express our goodness. You know, and then that bothered me for a long time. But it does come out. It comes out when I work with people, Chicanos and Chicanas, when I work with them. Their goodness comes out when I work with them to write a poem. It's such a beautiful thing to see how unique their sensibility is, how unique their feelings are when they write a poem. And I read it and then I look up in amazement and say, you mean to tell me that little thing right there? They're like, yeah, that's Santiago, that's it. And it blows me away how fragile and beautiful and gentle and serene their goodness is. So the question I have is, to myself rather, is how do I get this to be, how do I get this healing aspect? Because once you find out the goodness in you, then you're working with your healing. And I'm like, well, what do I do? What do I do with this, you know? And I have to go back to what happened with me. I have to go back when, after 25 years institutionalized from the age of 5 to the age of 30, I was in institution after institution. They didn't let me out till I was 30. But I began to get a unique understanding of what is inside the hearts of my gente. And for instance, I was working with young, and this applies to the most central aspect of healing, which is what I think we need, because there's so much rage in our community. And it comes out sporadically and impromptuously. It just comes out, and then horrible things happen when that happens, because there's so much remorse after that. Could be an OD, could be a shooting, could be whatever, you know. But when I was working with this guy, no sabía cómo decir, como yo te amo, mi hija. He didn't know how to say I love you, my daughter. He just didn't know how. El vato estaba terco y firme y todo el paquete, pero he was buena gente. But he didn't know how to say it. I had been writing when Fred was at the UNM. They had a magazine, a weekly called Sears Catalog. I don't know if Fred remembers that. But the whole Chicano, we were all involved. Cecilio Camarillo, El Tigre, myself. And I think it was a beautiful magazine. And I started publishing there first, Fred. So you were reading my work. And it was a beautiful experience for me because I was inside and I found a way to connect outside. And it was a beautiful connection, you know? So I started back then, and the beginning of my process was healing. And I was learning how to, I didn't go to the Eurocentric example that was illustrated by the Romantic poets of Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron, people like that. They were beautiful. They were beautiful. But I couldn't go to them, and I couldn't go to the textbooks because they didn't pertain to me. They didn't even know anything about me. So I listened intently, and I kept telling this vato who was serving life for murder, un camarada, Lorenzo. He wanted to practice on me, and he could not, for some reason, maybe it was cultural or whatever, he could not say, I love you, Santiago. He just couldn't. He would show it by standing next to me against anybody in prison. When we had a fight on the yard and we had to take our fileros, he would stand right next to me without a word and say, ¿Qué hubo? Vamos a sacar la greña. So there was pure love there, but he couldn't say it. So una vez me estaba hablando the kind of work he used to do up norte. He was from Abiquiu. and he cut wood, and he me enseñó un caja de guantes. And every single glove, there must have been 3,000 gloves in that box, and every one of them was worn through with blood on them. Y cuando le pregunté, oye, what is that? Me dijo, that's my 30 years of working. Y why did you work? Pues para pagar la cuenta para poner mi hija through the University of New Mexico. I had to make sure she got out of this onda, bro. And those are my gloves. And te digo la pura neta, I almost started crying when I realized that this was the metaphor of his expression for love. I could not believe it. I was like, wow. Entonces I told Lorenzo, you march your nalgas over to the visiting center this Sunday, and you sit down with your hija, and you tell her about those gloves. No tiene que decir que te amo. Tell her about the gloves and the reason that you have 3,000 of them with blood on them. They were all worn through. Tell her. Y te digo la pura verdad. When he came back after the visit, you could see tears running down his shirt, his face, and his shirt was wet. Because in his words, he said, Santiago, she understands that I love her. So each of us has 1,000 of those in us. Each of us have 1,000 boxes of gloves. We just have to learn how to access those metaphors, put them into a socially contributable form. Don't isolate it. Put it into a socially contributive form so other people can see it and share with us their reaction to it. And I guarantee you that when we share those with other people, they're going to be awed, not only by our grandiose uniqueness, but by our genuine authenticity as human beings. So that's really, I can speak more to that aspect of literature and language and words. I can speak more to that because I have some certain ideas about it that have to deal with counselors, that have to deal with the therapists, and how unique that works with us, how well that works with us. But in most cases, the elemental aspect that's missing in most therapy and counseling and justice and economics and mental health and stuff like that is the literature created by a raza. Because once we access that, I think we begin to formulate and illustrate a path forward. And that to me is really needed because just like we have drugs and just like we have alcohol destroying our communities, we also have rage. There's so much pent-up rage. And every one of us, at least me and everybody I know, is afraid to express that rage. Yet, if you go to the elite classes, they have entire therapy buildings filled up with white people screaming. I mean, it's like a madhouse, which probably it is, but we've never been able to get that opportunity of raging without being called cobardes or putos or sissies. So I'm talking about literature, man, and the power of literature, the power of a word to unleash your most secret expressions that you've kept secret from everybody, and how those can be so freeing to you as a human being. The only thing that Obama had, because if you look at his track record, no vale nada, cabrón. He didn't do nothing for La Raza. He closed all the doors. He took away this, tú sabes, and it was a white-black thing, which is, está bien, it's okay, right? I'm not criticizing that. I'd rather have him than un pinche gabacho, pero that's another thing, right? The only thing he had that was extraordinary, that transcended color and economic level and status and everything else, was language. He was able to access the metaphor of in people's minds that unclicked their allegiance, that gave him loyalty, that they gave him loyalty to him, because he was able to access the metaphors. Once you unleash the dormant energy and the metaphor, you can start a hallelujah movement and have 30 million people following you. You see, but at the community level, and I've worked with, God knows how many people I've worked with. Every week I get calls from all over the world, but to me, it goes back to that with the people, my raza. It goes back to me reaffirming who they are. And by the way, when we talk about recovery, it's so limiting. It's a limiting word because I've been at conferences where someone talked about recovery by telling the truth about what their feelings were toward a woman or a woman about a man. And I've seen people jump up on stage and say, no, 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 you can't say that. And so we have to ask ourselves, how freeing is that term, that label, recovery? What does recovery mean? What do we got to give up? What do we got to surrender? What do we gain? And I don't think a lot of guys that I know want to lose what little they have by going into recovery. So what can we say to have them keep what they have and let them still be in recovery? Like if I work with a guy who hates, who only can see women through a sexual lens. If I work with a guy like that, that's it. He sees her as a sexual person. And if I tell him, mira, in recovery, carnal, you can't go there. Or you can't be talking about like women about like that. Immediately recovery loses, it cancels itself out. There's no recovery. So my question is, how do we work with this in our own raza? Because the blacks in the East Coast are doing unique things, but within the black consciousness. And as Chicanos, we have some of the most brilliant therapists like yourselves. I mean, there's nobody, Melissa and Anna, come on, and Fred, you guys are brilliant. And there's no way I would ever hesitate to put you on stage and speak for me. You could speak for me because I know whatever you're going to say, que huele, it's me. But how do we take this thing and really open it up to a forum, an arena where the healing is socially recognized, that gives us back our respect, our self-esteem, gives us back our identities that we own. How do we do that through therapy? How do we make therapy what Karl Marx did with communism? How do we do that? How do we make therapy that big, that huge, that amazing? And it's not going to be done by always being right or by being politically correct. Chicanos ain't that way, man. We love putting our foot in our mouth, but we don't want to be condemned or crucified for it. ¿Me entiendes? Like there's not a guy I know who I caught doing cocaine in the last month, a camarada, who I work with, who was high. There's not one single person that I condemned for that. I just said, ¿sabes qué, carnal? Mira, este te va a joder gacho. But let me show you this other side here. Mira, this is good. This is really cool. This is good. So I put them on a track of creativity, entrepreneurship, where I hook them into a business where they're like, Órale, Santiago, I'm not using so much now, bro. I don't have the time. And that's really, there's a lot of them, but I'll be quiet for now. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to take up so much time.
No need to apologize, hombre, porque sabes que now you know why I decided to do 90 minutes, porque dije, sabes que we could do this all day, but we're not going to do this all day today. But I just want to say, your work did influence us Chicanos, by the way. Just as I was reading poetry of the time, and New Mexico has, its cadre of poets, but I was also reading the other side of our brain, which was work done by La Academia del Norte. These were the most intelligent Chicanos in New Mexico that have ever existed, in my opinion. Right. And that work still stands true today. That work is still documented today. It is part of our literature, history. And all I can say is the anthology of that intellect is as profound as anywhere in the world. And in fact, it's deep in our soul, it's deep in our minds, and it's deep in our communities. What we're needing is to share that literature and teach that literature. And Jimmy, just we're gonna end today's show at the end because I'm gonna read something you wrote, and it was called Doing Time. But we're gonna end with that literature that you're talking about because it gets at the heart of what today's Platica is about. So we're going to go over to my comadrecita, Melissa, because she's already ready for her questions, and we're going to keep going through this. So, Melissa, please, I know you've been esperando, so please go ahead.
I'm speechless so far. You, Fred? Oh my gosh, that really went about the love of a father to a daughter, and not being able to, but con los guantes que trabajó years. That's amazing. That is amazing. I get to tell my dad today how much I love him and appreciate him. And then I get to show him. Yo siempre digo, I get to do these things today because I have an open mind, open eyes, and an open heart. And that's why I think these placticas are so powerful, because we get to be us. But next in line, it ain't Rudy's, right, Chef? It is Mr. Chef Fernando. He is, you are well known as Chef Fernando Ruiz, the king of Southwestern and Mexican cuisine, holding the distinction of being a 3-time Food Network champion. And you're here in Nuevo Mexico. I mean, we got you here. That is amazing.
I've been adopted as a Nuevo Mexicano. I've been in Nuevo
Awesome.
Mexico for 24, 25 years. So I'm not only Mexicano, Chicano, but I'm now Nuevo Mexicano. So
Bueno, well,
Ahí está.
yeah.
and then, and this is also, you're undertaking some huge entrepreneurial steps to include your institute and opening up your new restaurant. Hey man, we'll all be
Yes.
in line there.
Thank you.
And with that being said, talk about your early years before all these. I like to say gifts. This is a gift. What I get to do today is a gift, and what you do, the way you do it is.
The thing is, I didn't sign up to do what I'm doing now.
I know.
I didn't sign up to be on TV. I didn't sign up to be on Food Network. I didn't sign up to be on cooking competitions. The last thing I wanted to do was be on TV. That was the last thing I ever wanted. My biggest concern about being on national TV was people seeing me on TV that I grew up with. I did not want any backlash anymore, because after I was already in Nuevo Mexico, I was doing well. I was becoming a chef. I was moving up the ladder. I didn't want any backlash. Everybody I grew up with is either dead or doing life in prison in Arizona. But I still didn't want to be on TV. I didn't want anybody saying, hey, that's the guy that may have shot my brother, or that's the guy that robbed us for 50 kilos of cocaine, or that's the father of my child. I'm glad I decided to do it all, because I didn't get any backlash. And I started young. You know what I mean? I got jumped in when I was 13. I was already carrying guns at 13, 14. I was already dealing drugs at 13, 14. I got shot when I was 15, and I still didn't learn. I got arrested the first time when I was 15, turning 16, with 4 stolen guns, a pound of methamphetamines, and a quarter kilo of cocaine. At 15 years old, 16 years old. There's no teenager that has any business with that amount of drugs, guns, money. With all of that comes power. There shouldn't be any 15-year-olds that have that sort of power over people. So I got arrested at my 15, got on probation as a juvenile. My attorney got me off on all those charges except for possession of drug paraphernalia. Reason why, when I got arrested, they read me my adult rights. They took me to an adult jail. They interrogated me as an adult. I kept my mouth shut the whole time. I was telling them just stories. Finally, when they realized I was underage, I had to call my parents to come pick me up. I got probation. I violated my probation a year later with another pound of methamphetamines and more guns at 17. So then I turned 18 and 19, and I haven't heard anything from the courts. And I think they lost my case number. They lost my paperwork. I'm home free. I'm 19 years old. I get a knock at my mom's door. They arrested me as an adult and prosecuted me as an adult at that point. Arizona and Texas are very similar. They can pretty much do what they want. And so I ended up getting sentenced and I ended up getting my GD. And from there, I went to culinary school, got out. I've been in New Mexico 25 years. We started this Entrepreneurial Institute of Northern New Mexico, the reentry program in the prison here in Santa Fe, Ralph and I. I opened up my restaurant in July. Our prison program ends the first week of July. I had a lot of people asking me, why are you trying to do both things right now? You're opening up your restaurant in July. You're starting this prison program, reentry program in the prison. Your first cohort, your class graduates in July. You're supposed to open your restaurant in July. How are you going to be able to do all these things? I've always been a mover. I've always been a hustler. I can figure it out. I like to do 500 things at one time. I'm very dyslexic. I'm very ADHD, as you could tell from the picture in the background. I'm a big advocate for that. But here we are. I'm opening up my restaurant in a month or so. The reentry program's going great. They're having a ton of fun, and they're really into it. You know what I mean? Our students aren't in the class because they can get out of their dorm or their cell for 3 or 4 hours. They're all getting out within a year and they all want to do good, and we can find them jobs and housing and support, whether it's mental health, rehabilitation, drug, whatever. Those little blue pills that everybody's listening and hearing about is destroying this whole thing that we've built. Just because of $1 pill, you know what I mean? It's killing people. It's killing our kids. It's killing our parents. It's killing our brothers. And like Jimmy said, let's read some books. You know what I mean? Get them out of there. Read a book for 30 minutes a day. Expand your mind. Open up your brain. Don't listen to your so-called friends, because I ask these guys in the prison every day, how many of your friends come visit you guys? 0. Not one raised their hand. We don't have friends. I can count my friends on one hand. I can count my friends on one hand, but I can count thousands of acquaintances that I know that are not looking out for my best interest. They're looking out for their best interest. And like Jimmy said, we got to break that stigma. We got to break that Chicano culture. We've always been proud people. The Mexicanos, the Chicanos, the Latinos, the Hispanics. We've always had something to prove since we crossed that border, or we just got thrown in here. And at the end of the day, we're all the same. You know what I mean? We all have the same brain. We all bleed the same color. But at the end of the day, we need to keep this movement going on the Chicano culture, on making a little money when you get out of prison. Support yourself, like be good. We all know what's right, what's wrong. We know what's good, what's bad. For example, there's a couple guys in the class. They are state certified dog trainers now. They have a dog training program in the prison.
They might
When they
also, sorry to interrupt you, but they might also have a CPSW credential because, like, you know, we have a collaboration too with NMCD, and to watch them do that and be there for somebody that's, you know, suicidal, you know, has tendencies like that, put him with a peer and then the dogs, it's just, I'm sorry.
And you know what? And everybody in this Platica, if you say no, then you're lying. We've all had suicidal tendencies.
Yes.
We're all fucked up in the head, one way or the other. And if they say no, then they're lying. I fight with it every day in my head. But at the end of the day, we know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And that's just the approach we have to take on it, you know? So.
And like Mr. Jimmy said, ahorita, you know, Fernando, what you just did right now is you showed us a lot of love with the words that you just spoke. Do you know what I mean? The words that from a grown man that came from there to here and is using his experience to help others. And to show them. I mean, your eyes watered. You don't see grown men do that.
Did you see that? I was trying to hold it
Of course I
back.
did. And it's
Damn it.
okay. And it's okay. So,
And that's because I have a passion for it. You know what I mean?
absolutely.
When Ralph and I tell our stories, whether it's in class or motivational speaking or whatever, I shouldn't be here. You know what I mean? I should be dead
Dude.
or doing life in prison. I'm glad I got in trouble for trafficking guns and drugs. I'm glad I got in trouble for trafficking guns and drugs. And yeah, I always have that little thing in the back of my head. Can I get in trouble for something I did now when I was younger? You know what I mean? It can always come back. And I've always had experiences when my life is going well, as like for instance, right now, I am opening up my own restaurant in July. We started this prison program. We're doing good. Everything's going great. I'm starting to get a little financially stable. Everyone's healthy. But in my life experiences, when everything's going good, something bad's going to happen. And that's always been in the back of my head. And I prepared myself for it, whether it happens to me. I've prepared myself for when my mom and my father pass away. I still have them alive. They're in Arizona. I've prepared myself for the last 5 years. They're getting old. So I'm prepared for whatever comes my way, whether it's great, whether it's good, whether it's bad. I've been through worse. You know what I mean? I'm opening up my restaurant. I'm starting a reentry program. I've done worse. For me, this is it's fun what I'm doing right now. I don't feel like it's work. And at the end of the day, we're helping people that have our background, like Jimmy and me and Ralph, like do good and be productive citizens and helping other people. I feel I have an obligation to help. I have people helping me with my restaurant, financing my restaurant, coaching me, mentoring me, how to be a better businessman. I have people helping me. It's only fair if I help other people. Fair is fair. You know what I mean? I wouldn't feel comfortable if I wasn't helping or doing my part, whether it's for community or helping inmates or students in prison. We all just need that little push, you know? And at the end of the day, Ralph will agree with me. I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with me. We wouldn't be able to do this without good women by our side.
That's all right.
Period. Plain and simple. If I was single, I wouldn't be doing this. If my wife didn't push me to do what I'm doing now, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. I anduviera de cabrón todavía ahí moviendo drogas from Phoenix to Colorado or whatever, but we're here, you know what I mean? And we're raza, and we're brown. We've always
Yes,
been, and we've been proud people. I'm a little
Yes.
lighter, pero soy mexicano fluent. Spanish was my first language. A funny story: when I first walked into county jail, you're Mexicano, you hang out with the Mexicanos. If you're black, you're with the blacks, and it is what it is. It's prison politics. It's always going to be that way. When I first walked in, the very first time into county jail, I look white. I walked into my pod. The whites approached me. Hey, are you hungry? You thirsty? Hell yeah, I've been in the shoe for like a week getting processed. I'm starving. Come on, let's go into the room. They gave me a bag of chips, a Coke, a Snickers bar, and I ate the chips and I cracked open the Coke, opened up my Snickers. And I ate for like a minute, and they said, so what's your name? I said, my name's Fernando. The next words I heard out of that guy's mouth is said, are you a fucking wetback? You don't belong in this room. You go back with the Mexicanos. They ripped out the Coke out of my hand, my Snickers out of my hand. I remember I was so hungry I wanted to finish that Snickers. I went straight to the Mexicanos, and introduce myself. They introduce themselves, and that's how I stay. Traditionally, like if you were gonna label me, soy Chicano. I am a son of Mexican parents born in the U.S., pero también fui criado en Mexico. I was raised in Mexico on a ranch in Sonora and Sinaloa, Mexico. My mom's from Sinaloa, my dad's from Sonora. So there it is, you know.
Thank you, Fernando, for that. You know, you said a lot, and like I said earlier, your words show love. So I know that you gotta leave at 1, so I'm gonna ask you one final question, okay? Because I wish I could ask you another one, pero te tienes que ir a las 1.
You got
10 minutes, okay.
Oh yeah, I should
So-
probably jump on the truck.
Yeah, so what do you want the live Facebook audience to take away from today's Plática?
I have a saying that I like to say all the time. We're all born with nothing. We're all raised with nothing. And at the end of the day, make something out of nothing. Whether it refers to, say, you open up the refrigerator in your home and you say, but we know good well you got food in the refrigerator. Make something with what you got. Make something out of nothing. Whether it has to do with life, with rehab, with making food. If you come from nothing, make something out of it. And be the best at it. Whether you're going to be a carpenter, be the best carpenter. If you're going to be a chef, be the best chef you can be. If you want to be a counselor, be the best counselor you can be. And just go from there. Because it's only going to get better if you want to do better. And at the end of the day, make something out of nothing. Whether it's a bad day, make it into a good day. It's easier said than done, but put some work into it and you'll be fine.
Thank you. That's Fred. That was a closing, right? But it's just for a minute, not forever, Fernando. I know you got to do some work, but we need to have more of these platicas.
That's right. Well,
And I'd be more than happy to do another one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Don't be shy to ask.
Well, you know, I'm gonna say, Fernando, you always leave us with some nice spicy little goodies at the end. That's what makes you a chef, Fernando. You know how to kind of put it together, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna forget that. Make something out of nothing, ¿verdad? Because in veces, you know, sometimes we think we've run out of gas, we've run out of ideas, we've run out of energy. Whatever we run out of, you know, you're reminding us that, you know what, when we make something out of nothing, very good things happen. And we want to congratulate you on the opening of your restaurant in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I know there's a lot of excitement in New Mexico about you as now a very well-known chef, and you should be very proud of that. But we're proud of you because what you're doing is you're putting the face of recovery smack
Right
right
there.
on everything. Sabes que, you know what? That's going to do more for fighting stigma than any other method in this country. And what that means is talk to people like yourself and Rafael and Santiago. It is the most effective way of getting people to shed their bias, their prejudice, their stigmatization. So what you're doing with every person who walks in that door, you are combating the stigma that keeps people from recovery. So Carnal, I want to applaud you and support you. So Naba should probably have a little lunch party over there. I think
What about Opry?
yeah, we'll go over there and have a little business meeting, you know. Naba will pay for it, of
Or,
course.
or I can come to you. I travel too. I can come to you. We can come
Not
together.
only, Senor, not
That's
only
right.
is he in recovery, but Latinos, we love food, man. Whatever you give us, we're gonna eat it.
Yep. And as Mexicanos, Latinos, Chicanos, growing up in my mom's house, in my auntie's house, grandma's house, the kitchen is where everybody congregated. In the kitchen is where you heard
the best mitotes, the best gossip, the worst gossip. Did you hear about so and so? She got pregnant or whatever. And it's always been surrounded by food in the kitchens, in the Chicano culture kitchens. Same thing in the restaurant, and same thing in the restaurant kitchen. That's where we get the best mitotes, the best chismes about everybody and everybody, you know. But at the end of the day, what's happening is food brings people together. You hardly ever see people eating by themselves. You always see people eating together, whether it's at home or in a restaurant or wherever. Food, my life, it brings together people's stories, whether it's about the food that you're eating or in general, whether it's good stories or bad stories or chismes or mitotes, it's always going to be there. But it's always going to be surrounded around food.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, como dicen hoy en día, but we've known this for centuries, that food is medicine, ¿verdad?
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
just described the
And
fact that,
Freddy, and Fernando,
Yeah.
también recovery es el nuevo, the new medicine is what I think it is.
Yes.
Recovery is the
It's
new medicine.
always been an embarrassment. You know what I mean? I was embarrassed when I was addicted to drugs. I never put myself in rehab. I rehabbed a totally different way, but that's a whole other story. And my brother helped out with my rehabilitation. Long story short, I showed up to my parents' house after being gone for like 2 or 3 months. And I happened to show up to my mom and dad's house, my dad and my brothers getting ready to go hunting for about a month. And he said, come on, let's go. You'll be gone for 30 days in the mountains. You can rehab yourself in nature. And that's what I did. And that was well over 25 years.
Wow.
I didn't want to go to rehab because I didn't want to be embarrassed. I was already embarrassed. But then I hear Ralph's story, and I wouldn't be able to put myself in Ralph's story because I wouldn't have had the balls to go to rehab, or I would have been too proud to do that. I would have been afraid what everybody's going to think, whether it's acquaintances or family members and stuff like that. So then again, I give Ralph a lot of props, what he's done.
That's awesome. We're going to listen to Ralph in just a little bit, by the way. But before we let you go, Chef Fernando, it's just, again, muchísimas gracias. And we're going to extend a special invite to you, and we'll pass it on with your camaradas. But Dr. Ana Chavez-Mancillas is going to mention when she speaks here in just a bit about the National Coalition on Returning Citizens. And I think she's got an idea about some honorary members, right? But I don't know if you want to say something in the 2 minutes we have with our compadre before he has to jump off. But Ana, this is as good as time, and it makes for a great despedida from today's Plática to the next steps, porque este trabajo, this work continues, va a continuar. So I just want to make sure, gentlemen, and Fernando, you in particular, because you're jumping off, that the work you're doing is so powerful. We know as a national organization how you can bring more people into recovery just through your words. And then, of course, if they're going to eat your food, then you're going to convince them even more. But Ana, I think you were going to do a little invitation for something special. We may as well do it now because we don't want to miss the opportunity.
Absolutely. Yeah. So through the Center of Innovation, we are going to, we have already formed a coalition, and we're adding members to this national coalition. The focus will be, is the reentry population, returning citizens. And some of the work that the coalition or products that the coalition is wanting to offer is a Tenemos Voz network that will be specifically for Latinos who are returning from prison and jail into their communities, to help them have a place of connection, belonging, and helping reduce the stigma, right? So this network is going to be offering educational resources about behavioral health for the Latino population, so that we can educate not only the reentry population, but the Latino community, because there is a lot of misconceptions, right? Even within the Latino community about the reentry population. Mainstream society teaches us that people that have spent time in jails and prisons are second-class citizens, and they are not. You know, they are our hermanos, our mothers, our brothers, our fathers, our uncles, right? And family is a very strong thing among the Latino population. So we need to change that and not go along with what mainstream society is teaching us. So that's one of the things, one of the products, in addition to some scholarships and hopefully some micro grants at some point for folks that are part of this population. And so my invitation to all three of you, Fernando, Ralph, and Jimmy, is that, you know, that you join the coalition as honorary members. It would be an honor and a pleasure to have you sit in the coalition with us to help push this great work forward, to help elevate and help more Latinos that are getting out of prisons and jail go back into society successfully and not have to return to the conditions that we all know are, you know, probably some of the worst conditions for them out there. So that's the invitation. And as Fred said, we will be sending additional information to you guys. And again, I hope that you accept the invitation, because it would be an honor to have you as honorary members.
Definitely. It would be my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds like
Fernando,
some amazing work, Anna, and I think that together we make a difference, right? Teamwork makes the dream work, and putting our minds together and our stories together and our work together, I think can only ignite that impact, right? And so, yeah, let's definitely talk about that. I'm interested as well.
Yeah, nobody can do anything by themselves. I wouldn't be able to open up a restaurant by myself. Ralph and I wouldn't be able to do a reentry program by ourselves. We need partners. We need help. We need a team. You need a team. It's very hard to do something on your own.
And there's some amazing people that are coming out of prison. I mean, even just with the individuals that we've been able to meet in the past 3 weeks, Fernando and I, we're blown away. You know, we are blown away with their level of literacy and their passion for numbers. We have this one guy who Fernando keeps saying, man, you need to be an accountant or something like that, because you start throwing numbers out there. We were doing some culinary math the other day, and this guy was just the answers just popping out of his head without even doing the formulas, and it was blowing my mind because I'm not that good at math. I'll be the first to admit that, right? And so but there's some amazing people that deserve these second chances.
That's
Or
absolutely
third
right.
chance,
Well,
or the fourth, or the third chance, or the fourth chance, or the fifth chance. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you exactly, bro. Yep.
yeah, it doesn't need to be. I would say I probably went through 10 chances before I figured it out.
Yeah, same here.
Well, we're gonna segue to Ralph, because with the time we have with Ralph and La Doctora Ana Chavez-Mancillas, I'll say something about that in a little bit. But Ralph, I was thinking about words that could maybe come close to describing you, and I didn't come up with the best words that I could think of, because the closest I could get was mover and shaker. You know, and the reason why is because everything you're touching and doing for the benefit of the communities, and you're doing some phenomenal things in the Española Valley, place I hold very dear to my heart, with familia, my daughter, my grandkids, and family members. All I could say is one of the most beautiful valleys in the world. But having said that, you're a testament to persistence, fortitude, and action, Cardan, and that's exceptional. It means a lot to the Valley to see that. I'm sure you take great pride in the things you have accomplished to date, but I think it's an underestimation for me just to say mover and shaker. There's just so much more to you than that. But I want you to get to tell us a little bit more about Ralph Martinez, and then I'm going to ask you to respond to a question from one of the Facebook chats, and I want to tell you what that question is. Very important because she wants to have an exchange in a way that's important to her. And I'm not going to read all of her message, but this is what she said. So she says this: I'm an MSW and work with youth. I wish so many parents and families struggling with addiction, and that I wish there was more support groups for kids. Loving an addict is so hard, and I can't imagine being a child and having the same worries that adult family members have. And she says, how can I help them? What did I do wrong? And is this my fault? So I want to give you a chance to share your insights and a little bit more about yourself. So Ralph, please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. And first of all, I want to thank you guys for having me on here. I feel like I'm super blessed to be able to be sitting in a space with such wonderful people. I mean, Jimmy and Fernando have been great mentors to me. You know, Fred, I know your work, and I've always been a fan and inspired by everything that you do. Melissa, she's been my sister in recovery, and I've had the privilege of watching her grow in that, and it's just such a beautiful thing. And Miss Anna, I know that we barely met, but 24 years in recovery, I know what it's like to have to do day one and build yourself forward. So 24 years, I applaud you deeply, and so I'm honored to be here. Thank you guys so much. And you know what, Fred, that's a heavy question that was asked by this individual, because you know, when I was going through my addiction, for those 11 years, you know, I used to get asked that question by my mom, right? Where did I go wrong? What did I do? You know, I did because I was raised by a single mom. My mom was left to raise two boys, me and my older brother, at the age of 18 in the low incomes in Pajarito in Espinela, and she didn't have much at all, and so she struggled a lot to get, you know, she worked two jobs a lot of times. I remember growing up and my mom always working two jobs actually, and she wanted to get us out of a certain environment and get us into a different kind of environment to give us an opportunity to grow, you know, give us opportunities that she didn't have when she was growing up. And so she, you know, but my brother and I, we witnessed my mom, you know, bust her ass to get out of a certain space and into another one. And when I fell into what I was going through, it broke my mom's heart, you know. It broke my mom's heart. She often asked, where did I go wrong? You know, what did I do that I thought I did everything right? I thought I taught you guys values and respect and hard work, and where did I go wrong, right? And it was always such a tough thing because it was never anything that my mom did wrong, right? It was the choices that I made in life that got me to, you know, down the road that I went through when it came to addiction. And it's hard because I saw my mom, and I saw my mom struggle with being an addict, loving me so much, even, you know, during the times that she had to show tough love, you know, and she had to kick me out of the house, or tell me that I couldn't, you know, stay at her house, or things like that, when she had to show me that kind of love. You know, I saw how much it hurt her. And so responding to the question that was asked by the individual, we can't blame ourselves for our loved ones falling into the situations that they go through. Those individuals need to be accountable for their own decisions. We all make our own decisions in life, and unfortunately sometimes we make decisions that we find ourselves in a place that we never even wanted to be. I never wanted to be an addict. I never wanted to be homeless, you know, and but somehow, some way, I found myself in that position, you know, and it was not because of anything. It was not because my mom or anybody that loved me. It's not because they took me down that road. It's because I took myself down that road, you know. And the best answer that I can give that individual is never stop loving the addict. Never stop loving them, right? Never stop being there for them. And even not being there for them sometimes is being there for them, because you don't want to enable them either, because once you start to enable them, then for sure you cut the chances. In my heart, and I'm just going to say it, when you enable somebody that's going through a situation like that, you cut their chances of them putting their feet back on the ground. Because if they, and I'm just speaking from an addict's perspective, if you can have your cake and eat it too, you're going to. And I see, you know, and I thank my mom. Till this day, I still thank her. Thank you, Mom, for not putting up with it. Thank you for not putting up with it. Thank you for not allowing me to think that I could become comfortable in that life. Because I'll be 100% honest. If I could have become comfortable in that life, I wouldn't be here right now speaking with you guys. I wouldn't have the life that I have right now, because it's so easy when you're an addict and you're caught up in the drugs and in the everyday life of escaping reality, because that's what we do when we do drugs and we become addicts, is that we fall in love with escaping that reality, and we find ourselves in a hole so big that we don't even want to face reality, you know. And if my mom or anybody that I loved would have made it that easy for me, I don't know if I would have ever climbed out of that hole, you know. But I got to a point where I started to realize what I was losing, right? I was losing time. I was losing respect from loved ones. I was burning bridges with people that I told that I loved them to their face, that I knew that I loved in my heart, but something was making me do things to them that was hurting them in so many different ways, right? And I started to see these realizations, and it was through those realizations that I got to a point of understanding that who I wanted to be and who I didn't want to be, you know. And so addiction is a tough thing. Addiction is a really tough thing. And you know, I'm not too sure how many are out there listening to us right now, but there, you know, whatever the crowd is like out there on Facebook, I'm sure there's some that know my story, and there's some that probably have never even heard my name. But for those that have never heard my name, just real quick, my name is Ralph Martinez, and I work at Los Alamos National Laboratory. I'm a government affairs specialist, and I've been there for going on 9 years. This August will be 9 years. Prior to that, I was born and raised in Espanola, New Mexico. Graduated from Espanola Valley High in 1996. Settled down with my high school sweetheart immediately after graduation. We started a family. Her and I have three children together. In the late 90s, early 2000s, she was a paralegal and I was a CDL truck driver. That's what we did to put food on the table and provide for our family. In 2001, I became addicted to drugs, cocaine and heroin, to be exact. And I was addicted for 11 years, from 2001 to 2012. In 2006, I lost everything because of that addiction. I lost my family. I lost my home. I lost my self-identity. I ended up underneath a bridge in Espanola. I lived under the bridge by a place called Dandy Burger, which is a local mom and pop restaurant in Espanola. I lived under that bridge for the first year of my homelessness. And then I moved around Espanola. I lived in the Bosque area. I lived in makeshift tents, abandoned buildings, abandoned cars, places I can find warmth in the cold of winter. You know, and it was very difficult, especially in my early years of addiction. And, you know, Fernando had mentioned how sometimes, you know, I struggled back then with suicidal tendencies. I actually attempted suicide in my early stages of homelessness and deep addiction. And you know, God works in mysterious ways, right? But in my when I first became homeless, I found myself underneath a bridge, addicted to drugs, and I would think about my kids all the time, you know, because I was raised without a father, and I always said that I never understood growing up how somebody can leave their child, right? I never understood that. And I always said, if I ever have children, I will never this and I will never that, right? And then all of a sudden in 2006, I found myself homeless, addicted to drugs, and I was under the bridge, and I would think, how did I become worse than the person that I never wanted to become? How did I become that? And it was such a hard reality for me, um, that it's a catch-22, right? Because when you find yourself in situations like that, you want to escape reality even more, right? And it's just it's a tough thing, man, because you find yourself even more caught up, right? It's a tough thing. But I give a lot of credit to the mother of my three older children, because I would call her up. I'd walk to the payphone at Dandy Burger. I would call her up, and I'd be crying, and she would tell me, Ralph, what are you doing? And I'd tell her, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. All I know is I miss the kids. I want to see the kids. And she would tell me, where are you at, Ralph? And I would tell her, I'm at Dandy Burger. I'm at the payphone. And she would say, I'll take them to go see you. I'll get them ready. I'll be there in 40 minutes. You'd better be there. And I'd tell her, I'll be here. I'll be here. And I'd sit down at the tables outside and I'd wait. And she would take them to me to see me. She never held the kids back from seeing me. Of course, she would talk to them first and she would ask them. And they would ultimately make the decision. But she never altered that decision. Right? They said, and that helped me out a lot, going through what I was going through, because I didn't know how I fell into that space. I didn't know how I was going to come out of it. And I knew that there was a lot of things challenges I put in front of myself. One of them was my kids, but being able to keep that connection with them, in the end, helped me to take the steps that I needed to in recovery, right? But in 2012, I was able to plant my feet back on the ground. I went to rehab 6 different times. During my time of addiction, I went to rehab in San Diego. I went to rehab in South Florida. I went to rehab twice in Farmington. I went to rehab in Hernandez. And my last rehab was at Oil Recovery in Velarde. I was in and out of jail many different times for things that addiction led me to do. I picked up 5 different felonies in Española. And I picked up, in New Mexico, and I picked up 1 felony in the state of Florida. I've done time in Rio Riba County. I've done time in Santa Fe County, Bernalillo County, McKinley County, San Miguel County, and West Palm Beach County. But in 2012, I was able to plant my feet back on the ground, reestablish my life, and move forward. In 2017, I started doing community activism because I wanted individuals that were going through situations that I was able to get out of to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. In 2018, I co-founded the Española Pathway Shelter. In 2019, I co-founded the Española Pathways Village, which is the first ever recovery living facility in Española, Rio Riba County. In 2019, also, I applied for an expungement of the 5 felonies that I held in New Mexico. I went through that whole process, and in the end, I got granted expungement by District Court Judge Glenn Ellington. In 2020, I applied for a pardon through the governor's office, went through that whole process. And in the end, I got a pardon from Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. And so I know how easy it is. And I always say, me and for both Fernando and I, that's why we make such a good team. And, you know, I value Fernando's heart. I value his work and his want to help others, right? Because we're reflective. That I feel like that's a reflection of my soul. And I think that's why Fernando and I, you know, we make such a good team, is because we want to see others do good. We know, Fernando and I both know how easy it is to fall into a situation that can be so hard to get out of. But we also know the healing that comes along with piecing your life back together, right? And so we shared a lot of the great and a lot of values. And you know, that's why I say it's such an honor to be here, because I know, Melissa, I know your story. It's so inspiring, man. I follow you. You know, I've always followed you. I've always respected the heart and the love and the passion that you put out there, not only into the world, but specifically into our community. And I think that's where it needs to start, right? Before it can get global, it needs to start. You need to plant a seed in a field before you can see that field grow with a whole bunch of beautiful flowers, right? And so, the work that's being done, I think the collaborative work that's being done by so many great people in our community, in our state, in our nation, I think it is a super great thing. And again, thank you guys for having me on this today.
Fred, can I chime in really, really quick to Ralph's
Please,
amazing,
please.
beautiful story? And then just so y'all know, I did make a shout out to Mr. Fred to see if he could give us an extra 15 on this. Because I mean, we're so passionate about what we do. I want to remind you, Ralph, that you probably haven't even forgotten. So it was the first time that Chama, New Mexico had a September recovery month. And we had that gym in Chama where that gym has been used for basketball players, where they have their memories, where my dad, I think, even played in that gym. And he was our MC. And then the warden I used to work for, Mr. Diop, he started off that recovery event like a champ. He brought us together with the word, right? With the word, con la palabra. And de Dios. And what can I say? I have to mention that. I know we're live, but that's the reason we're all here today together for me. That's what makes me like that. So do you remember that? Do you remember that, Ralph?
I remember it like it was yesterday.
Okay.
Oh yeah, no, I remember it. Yeah, it was such a beautiful event. How long ago was that?
I had just accepted the position here, so almost 5 years.
Already? Yeah, I remember walking in. The stage was on the right-hand side. The whole gym was
With
there was
tables.
tables all the way around. Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember.
We should do that again.
That's right. So there's going to be opportunities to make more memories, but because we just keep building the momentum and keep building each other up to make sure we go through those difficult times like Ralph talked about. And difficult might not even be the right word. All I could say is it makes me proud as a Latino to hear you speaking about your kids, as difficult as that was. Very moving, because the love we have for our children is so powerful that your wife, your partner, who helped make sure that your kids could still be in communication with you. All I could say is that's the bond that makes recovery possible. So very honored to hear your comments to that effect, Ralph. And I realize I was supposed to have my comadrecita do the question with Ralph, but now I'm going to ask if she'll do the question over to Anna, and then
Yes.
we're gonna look to extend this an extra 15 minutes. We're working on that. I think I'll connect with Victor, hint, so that we can make sure we can extend this a little bit more. As we're working on that, then we're gonna segue from Anna, and then we have our final question. So I'll just go ahead and work on getting an extension of the time so it doesn't stop at the time. And lastly, I know, Alicia, if you could do a shout out for all the folks that are on. All I could say is I can't keep pace with all the chats and all the questions on live. It's just
Myself
exploding.
either. There's so much. There's a lot of people on this Placticas today, and and the comments are all positive, you guys. So if you can't see them, I mean, if you don't have your Facebook on to the panelists today, you're gonna get a chance to see what they're saying. Like a CPSW just said, thank goodness for Pathways, man. My son gets a lot of support with you cats. And he's from España, so area. There's another one that says, oh, oh gosh, okay. So I wanted to ask Mr. Santiago also about the new book, the book that just came out. But I don't know if he has another engagement. But there's there's just so many accolades in there, and I believe that this is another way that we can spread love and recovery to other folks. So,
Well, I'm gonna jump in real quick if I can. I do see a note from Jimmy that he has to leave. And
yeah,
he really appreciated this, but Jimmy, just as I can, we'll end today's Platica, because I'm gonna read one of your poems from Blood In, Blood Out. So just know that we're going to take your advice about how literature impacts our life, and I'm gonna end with that. But for now, Jimmy, muchísimas gracias, and Alicia, I'll just kind of turn it back over to you so we could do some shout outs and have Anna, and then we'll do the final question. So please.
sounds good. I'm honored to talk to Anna, because we get to see her just on Zoom, you know, and I can't wait to give her a big hug and thank her for what she does for OPRI, especially when she gets to teach the ethics part of our classes, you know, for the CEUs. And I'm gonna ask the very first question. Dr. Anna, oh gosh, okay, it went off. The question disappeared. Sorry. Okay. Dr. Adam, in your role as the program director for the National Latino Behavioral Health Association, Ralph Martinez Center of Innovation, you are helping spearhead the development also of a national coalition, which you talked briefly about earlier, for returning citizens. Please share more about this important topic and work that's in store as you build your network.
Yes, thank you, Melissa, and it's always a pleasure to see you, and even if it's just through Zoom, and I am looking forward to that hug in San Antonio when we meet in person in August for our national conference that is being put on by NALBA. Yeah, so what we're doing is the coalition proposed to create a network to help connect returning citizens. And the idea is that we are going to give Latino returning citizens a sense of connection, belonging, and help reduce the stigma that is linked and connected with coming back into the communities, right? And through that, through the network, we're going to educate not only the returning citizens, but the Latino communities about the needs, the barriers of the returning citizen population. And we're going to educate them about behavioral health and provide behavioral health education and resources and linkages to services. So like, you know, the reentry program that Fernando and Ralph are doing, right? That's going to be a great link to have in our page so that folks can connect with the reentry program and get those additional support that they need, right? And through the coalition, we've been talking about doing some other products or programs for the returning citizens, which includes the BMAS Fund, which is the Bob Martinez Academic Scholarship Fund. And that scholarship is going to be specifically for Latinos who have been system impacted, who are now pursuing a degree in behavioral health. Okay, so it's going to be specifically for them. And the other thing we have talked about is potentially, hopefully we're able to raise funds or get funding for this, but like some micro grants, right? So that returning individuals that maybe they don't want to go back to school, but they have, you know, a business idea, or they are really good at, you know, I don't know, auto detailing, right? And so we can help them get started with that business so that they can start earning money and having funds to bring money to the table at home and, you know, feed their families and take care of their families and do those things that, you know, that they need to be doing so they don't return to a life of crime and they don't return to prisons and jails, right? So those are some of the things that the coalition will be working on. And again, you know, I had already extended the invitation to Ralph, Fernando, and Jimmy, and I am so glad to hear that they are more than honored to join us. So that is going to be great to have them come on board to be part of the coalition, so that they can help us move this movement, right, of the reentry population forward, not just locally, but nationally, right? Because it does take a village. It takes a village to
Absolutely.
help folks. And like I was saying earlier, these returning citizens are family members. They are not some person out somewhere in an island, right? They are cousins, son nuestros primos, nuestros hermanos, our uncles, our aunts, right? They are our familia. And Latinos, we take care of our familia. We don't push our familia out, right? But there is like all this guilt and shame related, that is all this stigmatization, even, with mental health, behavioral health, right? Addiction, being system impacted, having served time, there is all this stigma with it, right? But I think together we can help, and we can not only help reduce the stigma, but also reduce the recidivism rates for the Latino population, right? Because the Latino population is greatly impacted, right? It's the fastest growing population that is going into prisons and jails today. 50% of all drug charges are against Latinos, right? So the numbers are outstanding, and this coalition is looking to do something about that. We want to reduce those numbers. We want to help our people. We want to help our familia. So that's what the coalition and the work of the network is all about. And it is going to be called Tenemos Voz, because the population feels like they don't have a voice, but we're going to give them one through the network and through all the work that the coalition will be doing.
That's a perfect name. With that being said, Ana, I just want to, like, if it's okay with Fred and you, I want to give a shout out to some of the reentry programs here in New Mexico. Please let me just praise the nonprofits that are going up and what they do for not only the peers in our community, but employment opportunities too. So New Mexico Reentry Center, if you're listening and you're on this Plactica, thank you for the work you do. Thank you, thank you. Peaceful Habitation also helps females coming home, from prison, and like with nothing, with the bare minimum. So they'll help them with SOC, driver's license, housing is attached to this. And then there's a Peaceful Habitation. And for years, that I think I've never been able to, like, in the 5 years that I've been working here, even like I can't fathom how big recovery has grown in New Mexico, right? And I'm very proud to say that. So it's a pathway to recovery, and our faith. I'm going to do a shout out. I think I even dreamt that I would do this. I need to do a shout out to the faith-based recovery wellness centers, nonprofits that are going out there, because it's a pathway, and we meet folks where they're at. So, Angels with Broken Wings in Las Cruces, New Mexico Reentry Center, a Peaceful Habitation, Women in Leadership, and Renee's, tengo tantas. It's I'll get it before the thing's over. But there's 5 or 6 that are out there doing the deed, and they're welcoming people home so that they can get on their feet. And what you just mentioned.
You know what, Melissa, I'm sorry, I hate to jump in like that, but I think you hit the nail right on the head when you said the many different pathways, right? Because recovery is different for everybody. There is no one size fits all or one shoe fits all, and everyone does it in a different way, according to who they are individually. And so to have the many different pathways out there and to create new ones is so important. And so I want to thank you for giving those shout outs to these individuals and these organizations for doing that work, because I think we all know that work is not easy.
No, it isn't. And I've seen it just, it's like fire. And then, in rural New Mexico, there's also the Hojo Center. There is, even more rural, like Shiprock. We've got Miss Shirley at the Healing Circle. These are centers where people can come in and just, and be safe, have a meal, talk to a peer, do all of that. And whether it's faith-based, spiritually based, to our out there, to our pueblos and our Apache Nation and our Navajo Nation. They're doing amazing things out there with our community. Because in the end, like it's been mentioned here, is what I'm hearing, is that in the end, it's just about helping the next person, just show them how we got here so they could too. Right. And well, Fred takes over the next question with Miss Anna. I want to I'm gonna look, I have to look at my list, and I will be back with that name.
Okay.
Thank you, Ralph.
Well, así me pasa, right? Every now and then se me apaga la luz for just a second. So, hey, but I want to say thank you again, Ralph and Anna, for staying with us a little longer. We've extended the Facebook just a little bit longer because we're going to ask you for your takeaway. What do you want people to take away from what you would like to share today? And then I'm going to end with a poem by Jimmy Santiago Baca called Doing Time. And so before we get there, there's an expression that says ladies first. So Ana, our esteemed Doctora A, it just can't say thank you enough for your years of recovery, your leadership, your trajectory, your beginnings to where you came from to be here at this very moment in time. So what would you'd like folks to take away from today's Platica? So after you do that, we'll go over to Ralph, and go ahead, Ana.
Yeah, I think the one thing we've been talking about pathways, right? And even Ralph was saying, it's not a one size fits all, and it is different for everyone. For me, it took I landed in jail, short-lived, didn't spend much time there, right? That took me to rehab, happened one time, never wanted to do it again or go through the experience, right? But it was enough that it impacted my life, right? For others, it may take 20 times. But, whatever the path is, whether it is religion or whether it is 12 steps or, whatever that is, or going into the wilderness, right? Like Fernando, right? It took him 30 days out in the mountains, right? And that's how he got cleaned up, right? Because after the 30 days, right? And Ralph knows what I'm talking about. At about 30 days is when your mind clicks, right? Because those first 30 days are still in addict mode. Your mind is still saying, oh, I'm just going to do this, make everybody happy, and I'm going to go back out there and do my thing, right? And you make great connections in rehab, right? You're making connections with all these people, right? Maybe with cooks or with dealers, and you're like, oh my God, right? You're thinking you're making this great network, right? The first 30 days. But after those 30 days are over, your mind kind of clicks and you're like, man, I need to do something different, So don't give up. If it's whether it's your first time or your 20th time, keep coming back. Like we say in recovery, keep coming back. And again, it takes a village. It takes a village. And to those out there listening to us, look forward to our network. And I look forward to having you join it. Once we bring it live for everyone. Come be part of the network and support it. You will feel, again, my hope is that you're able to feel connected and feel that you're part of something bigger than yourself, right? Which is, I think that's what most human beings want. We need that sense of connection, of connectivity. And when we're out there in addiction, we're like so alone, right? But you're not. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chavez-Mancillas, for your words. And more importantly, don't give up. There's a whole bunch of folks that we want to just make mention. I'll mention their first names. So I want to say a shout out to Adriana, to Abe, to Romy, Tony Martinez, who was here with us today. We had Cynthia join us today as well. We want to say thank you to Victor. We want to say thanks to Margaret Campos, Mercedes Martinez, and we just have a whole bunch of folks that were with us today. So with that, Ralph, what would you like folks to take away from today's Platica? Go ahead.
The one takeaway that comes to mind, that I preach time and time again is it's never too late. It's never too late in life. It's never too late to start fresh. And so that's the short, sweet, simple version of my takeaway. That one day at a time thing, it really works. It really works. And so once you could put that into practice, or and never give up. Never give up on somebody that you know that is going through something, because again, it's never too late.
Beautiful. Again, it's never too late. And who knows, maybe Jimmy Santiago might write a poem and it might be entitled It's Never Too Late, ¿verdad? So we're going to end today with a poem written by Jimmy Santiago called Doing Time. And so if you'll just give me a moment here, I want to make sure I pull this poem up because I'd like to read it. Very brief. And I'll read it slowly because I want this to really be something you can listen today during your time with us. And it'll be a chance to really kind of reflect on what the poem is about. So with your
So
permission, I'd like to
before-
read this.
Mr. Fred, while you pull that up, I'm gonna say Anna and Ralph. And what you said, Anna, about the 30 days, that was so nice. That was nice of you to say that the mind changes. Ay, Dios, I wish that would have been for me, but you're right. Once the mind clears, then we can get it from here to here, no? And I remembered Frontline Resurrection is doing amazing things with reentry in Albuquerque. And so shout out to her too.
Oh, thank you. And we'll get to say our little despedidas ourselves too, Melissa. So as always, thank you for helping me co-host these Placticas. This is the poem called Doing Time. I can tell you when a man has done time in the joint. There's a certain strut and slip and jig he does when he walks, a certain swag that alerts the eye. Don't mess with him. Don't stare too long. The man who's done time carries an audacious silence in his face, a pause in his words, a blunt directness you can catch when you see them moving around at flea markets and grocery stores, parks on Sunday playing with their kids. They pick up the kids up with a stiffness pressed into them over time by confined spaces, as if their arms and legs and shoulders remember the cell's small proportions. Their step is measured. They're filled with small spaces. They fill every inch of a one-room apartment. They inhale all available air in narrow halls and reach the way flame reaches in the dark, filling only enough darkness to illuminate their way. Jimmy Santiago Baca. And as for the women who have also done time and are doing time, these very spaces that we occupy in our recovery, in our journey, in our paths, can be reflected in our minds, our thoughts, our words, and in our poetry. We encourage you to pick up a book, read a book, get inspired, and continue to do the things that are right in your life so that we can continue to heal and get bigger and stronger in our direction of wellness. Muchísimas gracias. I'd like us to say our little farewell. So, Melissa, una despedida from you, and we're going to welcome people to come back to our next Platica, which we will absolutely do. But more importantly, I want to thank you for being here, sharing your comments. This is being recorded. We will replay this immediately after today. So, Melissa, please take us away and end our show today.
I'm just in awe of what the nuggets, some people say nuggets, And, you know, just the information and the love that was poured out today and the realness and the compassion, because that's what, I mean, that's why I do what I do. That's why we do what we do, is because it started from nothing, like Fernando said, to something. And we cannot keep what we don't have. So we got to keep sharing this. We got to pay it forward, and we got to, I mean, that's my calling. That's my experience. So thank you again for an amazing hour and a half, 0.5, no, 0.15. And we'll hasta el otro Placticas, ¿no?
That's absolutely right. Melisha, thank you, Ralph, of course, Anna, and our colleagues who had other commitments, as we all do. Muchísimas gracias to Jimmy Santiago Baca and our extraordinary chef, Fernando Ruiz. We all need to get to his restaurant. We need to support the work that Ralph is doing and to continue to read the books that Jimmy writes. And with that, ahí nos hablamos. Muchísimas gracias. Pleasure having you today for today's Platicas. Adiós.